Welcome to the F50 Woman Podcast, dedicated to sharing stories from a diverse community of women in order to provoke you into a passionate pursuit of life, build unshakable character, and achieve extraordinary things. Now, here is your host, Julia Jack.
As a young girl, she was absent-minded, curious, and wide open. But she would grow into a woman who learned the boundaries of caution and how to turn curiosity into creation. She's a seasoned theater professional, a national award-winning narrator, intrigued by solving real people problems, and she's discovered how to use her acting skills to help people. Come in and listen to Kym Dakin's story. Her presence is soothing, and her purpose is clear, and she's another phenomenal F50 woman. Hey, this is F50 Woman. Today we are here with Kym Dakin. Now I pronounced your last name right. Kym Dakin.
You absolutely did. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to hear about who you were, who you are, and teach us some of those lessons that I know you've learned along the way.
Sure.
We'll just start off. I like to start with knowing who you were when you were little, because sometimes that tells us information about how you got to where you are. What did you like? What were you like? Tell me about that. Tell us about that.
That's a great question. And it's interesting because in the training that I'm doing, I'm getting certification as a mindset coach. One of the primary exercises is to find a picture of yourself as a young child.
Okay.
And the picture that I found of myself, I must have been maybe 2.5, and I'm standing with my hand on the tray of my little sister's high chair. And I am looking into the camera, and my eyes are so serious and with a face just wide open. And it's sort of the universality of children, you know?
Right. Okay.
They're wide open. And I was a person who kind of stayed wide open, maybe past the time I should have been a little more closed.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I was always a curious kid. I was finding interesting things in the neighborhood, like swamps and stuff,
Okay.
to go in and bring back interesting things like frogs and eggs and stuff. Weird water.
Okay. How did that go over when you actually brought those home?
Yeah, not so great.
Okay.
Yes, stuff started to kind of smell funny after a couple of days. So, but when I got a microscope, I was happy as a clam,
Right.
at least for a little while. And then in school, I hit what I've come to call the great math wall. It just made no sense to me. And so while I was really good at reading and comprehension, math was just like a foreign language that I couldn't really get myself around. But I would say as a kid, if I had 5 words to describe myself, it would be curious.
Okay.
It would be absent-minded. I was always losing things. It would be heartful. And I would say I was a little bit cautious too. Kind of shy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now how did that transform into who you are? Why don't you tell us, because you've been a coach for 30 years, you've been doing this for a long time. Why don't we jump over all those little lessons and how it actually came from point A to point, I don't know, F. I don't know what stage we are
I
in.
don't know where we are now.
Yeah. So tell us about who you are now, what you do.
Yeah. Well, I feel strongly that one of the challenges of adulthood is keeping our sense of curiosity alive.
Yes.
At a certain point in our development, we feel like, okay, I know what I need to know now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just sit in what I know. I think there's a certain kind of death that happens when we lose our curiosity.
Okay.
And it becomes more difficult to grow, more difficult to evolve, more difficult to deepen our relationships.
Yeah.
So I would say that if I were to name one thing I feel strongly that I've done well, it's keep my curiosity alive.
Nice.
And I think that served me actually in the pandemic. I was doing a lot of team experience design, in-person stuff, trainings on communication and conflict management, but it was all in person. And so, boom, the pandemic comes. Suddenly, everything evaporates.
Yep.
So we had enough money to tide us over for a bit of time. But I started to get curious about realizing that for the first time in my adult life, I had a span of unstructured time, which is something that I had been hungry for years.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
A silver lining of the disaster.
Yep.
And so I started to think about what I really wanted to do. I signed up for two things.
Okay.
I signed up for Seth Godin's Writing and Community program.
Okay.
And began writing a book on something that I've been doing trainings for years, which is listening, how we listen, what we listen for, and the head, hands, and heart model that is actually derived from a Waldorf model for early childhood education.
Nice.
So as I dug into that, and just as I was beginning to really dig into that, I got an opportunity to take a class designed for women who are curious about developing online products.
Okay.
And I have to preface this by saying that years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I had developed a card game called Shift POV for teams that were finding themselves in conflict such that they couldn't make a decision without disenfranchising significant players on their team. So I thought, wow, maybe I could put this online. Well, it turned out that I couldn't put it online inexpensively.
Okay.
So I was casting about for something else to do. And by this time, we'd all been engaged in online meeting platforms to actually nobody's satisfaction, engagement levels, distractions, all kinds of stuff were happening that was not conducive to putting together an engaged meeting where people would actually learn something and be able to connect off the surface. Right. So I started getting curious about this and focusing on this one problem. And the guy who ran the class is someone who teaches Colby College in their entrepreneurial design program. And he was getting frustrated because all of his students, with a couple of exceptions, were men. If a female student showed up, she stayed quiet. She stayed in the back of the class and oftentimes dropped out. And so he was like, what is going on? What do we need to do to correct this problem? So they came up with this class just for women. And he was really intrigued by the problem that I was trying to tackle, how to increase engagement in online meetings.
Okay.
So we came up together with a tool called Nugget.
Yes, I was hoping you would share that one. Yeah.
That's right. Nugget is actually a name that a friend of mine came up with when I described this product to her. What Nugget does is it runs in the background of our online meetings. But instead of mine having to like type down a bunch of notes or scribble a bunch of indecipherable notes in a notebook or spend hours going through a transcript afterwards to tease out to juicy bits, all I have to do with Nugget is press the Nugget button and it will highlight that important item on the transcript after the meeting.
Okay.
So I've got 2 buttons to work with. I got a nugget button. I've got a follow-up button. So if I push that, I know I have to get to that and get whatever that is done.
Okay.
And I also have a little bit of a text bar that will let me put in context. It will also let me put the names of people who are speaking.
Nice.
So if I were running that here and we had maybe 3 or 4 people and you came up with a juicy bit, I could go, Nugget and Julia said this amazingly insightful thing.
Right. Nice. I was wondering how that worked because I love the idea, but how do you get the clips out of it? So that's perfect.
And at the end, you have the option of sharing the entire transcript and the audio recording. Or you can just share snippets. So now you can go into the file kind of behind the lines and highlight a snippet or 2 and just send that. Yeah. So I don't have to send the whole thing. I can just send segments.
Nice. And so this is really, really new.
It's really
this year new. Okay.
Totally new to me. I mean, I am not a techie.
Okay.
But I partnered with Tortoise Labs.
I was going to ask how you got that done. Okay.
Yeah, right. I partnered with this duo design team.
Okay.
Nick was the guy who taught the class. Yeah. And Brandon is the techie dude.
Yeah.
And between the 3 of us, we came up with this product. And nice. I couldn't be more tickled, I have to say. Yeah.
I love it. I just scanned through it, so I didn't try it and I didn't get deep into it. But I know taking notes in meetings is like, oh, shoot, what'd you say? You want to stop the whole meeting and say, wait, what'd you say?
Yes, say it again. Miss the next thing you said because I'm trying to get down the last thing you said.
Yes.
It destroys my focus and concentration.
Yeah.
And when you're in a coaching one-on-one situation, it can really be detrimental because the person you're with wants to feel you there. Wants to make sure that the eye contact thing is happening.
Yes.
And if I'm like,
right, especially online because you see the top of the head, right?
That's right. Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
So I was thinking for coaches, I wanted to develop a tool that coaches could really utilize.
Yeah. So you can use this on your phone or on the computer.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Your sense of curiosity seems like it just makes sense because you're taking classes, your life shifted and you're just curious about what else can I get into? What else can I do? How can I solve other problems? But I imagine that wasn't just, I grew up, I was young, I was curious, like to collect things and then I'm great. So what happened? There was something that happened in there. Tell us how this transformation and how this all happened in your life.
Yeah. In my family growing up, I had a lot of acknowledgement for being a good reader. I read at a young age, but I was really painfully shy, especially, in middle school and when the bottom drops out of everybody's life to some extent, except the chosen few.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the impetus was, but I was in a summer program, one of these day programs. Parents worked. We got to put the kids in somewhere. So part of the day program was this theater class. And I don't remember what the story was, but I remember it was kind of a fairy tale. Everybody had candy names. And I got to be Lady Lemon Drop.
Okay.
Lady Lemon Drop was a bit of a sourpuss.
Okay.
And oh my God, it was so much fun to play.
Yeah.
I get to be bad. I get to be a little mean and grinchy. I get to be all the things that I never got to be at home because I'd be, smacked with it. So, Lady Lemon Drop freed me somewhere emotionally.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, how do I get more of this? So it turns out I was pretty good at theater.
Yeah.
I auditioned for shows. I got in them. In high school when I was a freshman, I got talked into auditioning for the musical King and I.
Okay.
And my best friend, actually, the word frenemy wasn't around then, but it would have applied to her. She talked me into auditioning with her because she didn't want to do it alone.
Okay.
Well, I got the part of the princess and she never spoke to me again. So,
Wow.
yeah, and it was always that kind of push-pull thing. It's like, oh, all right, but jealousy is really toxic and nasty.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but my love of theater just exponentially grew.
Okay.
So I went into English. I went into communications.
Mhm.
I spent 7, 8 years in New York City.
Okay.
I actually did get a Broadway show. I was an understudy, but it didn't matter
Yeah.
because it was Broadway. And
Yeah.
suddenly I was making real money. It was very nice.
Nice.
I got to go out of town a lot and see how people who were not shoehorned into little 2x4 apartments lived.
Okay.
So
Opened your world up.
that's right, with 7 roommates. But then at some point, I remember thinking, I would like to have more impact on the world than just be the next cute Broadway girl.
Okay.
I think there's more to me than that.
Okay. And
I'm
what age would you say that happened? Were
I
you
think
in your 20s or?
early 20s.
Okay.
And I remember reading an article in New York Times Magazine about Cornell Medical School and how they were becoming concerned that they were training these doctors in all things data. They could spit out all these facts and figures, but these were doctors that really didn't have much in the way of skill of dealing with actual live patients. So they were starting to become concerned about this, and they were trying to erect literature classes for them.
Okay.
So you're a doctor who's immersed in data and science, and here, let's read Dostoevsky. I thought, I don't think this is maybe the way to go. But
Yeah.
it's an intriguing problem again, right? It's
Okay.
an intriguing problem. After I got married and moved to actually Maine, where I live now,
Mhm.
I did some more theater, but I was starting to get curious about how these skills could be used for good and for
Okay.
something more than entertainment.
Okay.
And I created my own company called, at the time, Short Fuse Interactive.
Okay.
And we got hired to do scenarios and improvisational training modules,
Okay.
specifically on sexual harassment.
Okay.
So if you didn't know how to sexually harass your employees before, we would teach you the best way to do it.
That's a twist.
But and it was nice because we got work all over the state, and it was just at the juncture where the video that had been produced in the early 70s
Mhm.
becoming a joke, and they were getting tired of it. So
Okay.
it was nice, and we expanded the number of issues that we could deal with.
Okay.
The workplace environment, communication, problematic behavior patterns, that kind of stuff. We got deeply into that. And then I got some work with a hospital. Tufts and Maine Medical
Mhm.
have their own residency program.
Okay.
And they were starting something called the Standardized Patient Program,
Mhm.
which was, again, a way to address doctors who are heavy on data and light on communication skills.
Right.
But this time, it was designed for standardized patients to go in, having been trained on a case, playing the patient, and grading the resident, the student, on their patient communication skills.
Okay.
And I thought, this is exactly what I was thinking should be happening.
Right.
So it was joyful. It was joyful to find that.
Yeah.
It was joyful to find that niche.
Yeah.
And in fact, Kaiser Permanente has recently reached out to me, and I'm going to be doing some work for them in their department very soon.
Nice. So how does it work? Do you have a team of people? Do you and your team do the acting part? Yeah, you can tell me. How does that work?
Yeah, we do the acting part.
Okay.
I primarily function as the facilitator.
Okay.
It was interesting early on, I would hire out the facilitator
Mhm.
because I didn't feel I had skill in that area. But I would find myself so frustrated with some of the facilitators. It's like, no, follow that question. That's the interesting question. Why are you
Right.
letting that question go? And
Yes.
so after a while, I just went, okay, screw it. I'll find somebody else to do the part and I'll just take on the facilitation.
Right.
Yeah.
An important part to get, like you said, to get the questions answers, to follow through, to get a little deeper.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, at the same time, or closely therein, I started also getting some work in audiobook narration.
Okay. On purpose, or how did that happen?
Yeah, wonderful guy who sadly recently, over the last year, passed away from cancer. He was the voice of Bob the Builder in the Bob the Builder
Oh, I
cartoons.
love Bob the Builder.
Right?
Yes.
Who didn't love Bob the Builder?
Yes.
Well, he put together his own company, and I became one of his narrators. And early on, I even won a national award for it. So that was pretty awesome.
Nice.
And that, along with presentation coaching, I started coaching people who wanted to get into audio work.
Okay.
I started doing some directing, and I started to notice that the things that were in people's way
Mm-hmm.
for doing effective presentations and for taking on something vocally, like audio work,
Right.
they were somewhat deeper issues. And I, again, started to get curious. I've come to believe that the way we sound in our daily life, the tone of voice, what we use vocally,
Mm-hmm.
is a real reflection of who we are as people.
Yeah.
We are not a culture that pays much attention really to what's being communicated vocally.
Yeah.
But because we're not, we're missing a lot. And early on, somebody very wise told me to
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to my vocal development.
Okay.
And that has served me extremely well.
Right.
I am like 5'3". I'm
Mm.
teeny.
Mm.
I walk into a room and I can get totally ignored.
Right.
But I have learned that if I bring my voice and my vocal power up from my belly,
Mm-hmm.
resonating in my chest, I can amplify an entire room without a
Mm-hmm.
microphone.
Nice.
And that becomes such a surprise to people
Yes.
that they pay attention.
Yes. They're like, wait a minute.
That's where'd that come from?
Where's that coming from? Nice. Did you practice that, or was that sort of like, acting and any other thing that we need to develop?
It was kind of like acting, but I think
Okay.
my perception of acting is that we all have different people in us.
Yeah.
We're different people,
I know I do.
Oh, yeah,
Not
absolutely.
necessarily good, but I know I do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and we discover different personalities in ourselves as we grow and change.
Yes.
I know I never thought of myself as a control freak until my daughter became a teenager.
Okay. Yeah. That'll show you a lot of things.
A lot of things.
So when you talk about the importance of your vocals, is it only your tone and where the voice comes from? Is it also the way we say things, the language we use in your experience?
Yeah, it's the way we see things.
Mm-hmm.
It's the language we choose.
Right.
I'm glad you put that word in the room.
Yeah.
It's also so much of our background really is in our voice. I took a linguistics class once in college.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why. Again, I think I was curious about it. Something struck me in this class that the teacher relayed was that in the US, there are so many different kinds of terrain. And for people who are born and raised in a certain area of our country,
mm-hmm.
you can follow the vocal patterns of a person and start to guess what kind of country they were surrounded by. Like mountainous regions,
Mm-hmm.
people tend to use a little bit more range in their speech.
Okay.
The Midwestern sort of flat affect, if you've ever heard that.
Mm.
I don't, it kind of hurts to do it for long, but it's kind of like this. I'm forcing my voice from the back of my throat, and psychologically I'm feeling very cautious and protected. And I really am shoving my voice back.
Nice. I get it.
Right. But psychologically, I feel completely different when I do that.
Mm.
And depending on what you're trying to cause, there are different areas of your voice that you can utilize. Vowels and consonants, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Consonants are something that I discovered I was using a lot with my teenage daughter, because I wanted to get her attention and let her know this was important, right?
Wow, it's so clear. Yeah.
Right? Whereas when she was little, it's all vowels and a lot of vocal range.
I love it.
Emotionally, right? Right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I started to discover these things and put them together, then they became tools for, particularly, I love working with women as a presentation coach, particularly those who are just starting to step into greater responsibility and visibility.
Yeah.
Because I can give them all these tools to start to play with and have a little fun with and start to gauge the impact of what they're doing in a presentation.
Yeah.
Once you get people to have fun with what they're doing, all kinds of things are possible.
Yeah. The pressure is off, and the
Like, ooh, what if I do this? What if I pause here? Right? Can I work with silence? Can I work with interesting phrasing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So when I read your bio and it mentioned the theater in the training, I didn't really get it, but I get it now. It's so important. I wonder how I can use those tones and the range, especially as a woman in a career. Sometimes I feel like maybe I'm too soft. Okay, it's all right. Yep, we can do that. And who's listening to you right now?
If you put in just a few more consonants, you don't have to sound angry,
right?
But it tends to align your energy behind your words.
Yeah,
and people get the feeling that, oh, there's a sort of, ooh, sit up and pay attention, because she's really behind her words.
Yeah,
she's living them.
Now, do you have an online class or something? Because I know you live a little distance away from me. Some kind of class that we can take and just get the basics of this stuff?
I do that sort of thing all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I do prefer to work with people one-on-one.
One-on-one. Okay.
Or in a work setting.
Okay.
I've worked with a couple of different companies where they have teams of women, nonprofits, have teams of women who have to go up and talk to the legislature about certain things that they're trying to align legislation on. And so working with an intact team is great, because I can get them to start pitching for each other.
Okay.
I can get them to start coaching each other.
Yeah.
Oh, you went soft there, Julia. I don't know if you wanted to go soft there.
Right.
Choice, or is that just a habit? That kind of thing.
Nice.
So, but yeah, anytime. I'd love to work with you. You have, by the way, a fabulous vocal instrument.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking about the women I work with, and I don't know if a lot of them use their vocal range. They're all very quiet and subtle, and I don't know what it is. I'll have to pay attention more.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
What you discover.
Okay, so let me ask this question. When you learn how to act or improvise, do improvisation.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, your mouth, they have to be smooth. So sometimes my thoughts, I start thinking something and then I jump back I've noticed that as I listen to the podcast, sometimes I talk and then I jump back and what I said didn't really make sense. But I know what I was trying to say. A lot of working in teams and in business is you're thinking and you're talking and you're trying to get a thought out very clearly.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you hadn't prepared.
Right.
So how do you develop that skill?
Part of it is giving ourselves permission to do what we need to do to form our thoughts. And so if you're in a team and you're in a discussion and it's all going very hot and heavy and you've got thoughts coming, but nothing's coalescing. And I think it's really difficult in group settings because my attention tends to go to whatever somebody else is saying, right? So here I am, I'm trying to form this thought. I have learned to just simply say, okay, I need just a few seconds to breathe. I need a few seconds of quiet so that I can say what I need to say clearly. Okay. And that can be scary sometimes.
Yes, I was going to say that
can be scary.
I'm not doing that.
But often, especially for women, it's a constant need for us to give ourselves permission to take up space.
Yes.
Give ourselves permission to ask and in some cases demand what we need to do our best work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, the great thing about what's going on in the business community now in our country is that we are forced to pay attention to what will offer people their best situation to do their best work.
Right.
You know, whether it's work-life balance, whether it's unstructured time, whether it's a different way to conduct meetings.
Yeah.
I think meeting facilitation is an underappreciated skill because there are some people who are extremely skillful at it.
Yeah.
There are facilitators, and I've done it myself, who will build in every 15 minutes. Okay, we're going to take 60 seconds of silence. Okay. This allows the introverts to gain a little of their own ground. Yeah. This allows the extroverts to maybe give a few thoughts as to what they've already said and what they don't need to say anymore.
Right.
Right. So it's just kind of a chance to reset in a meeting. And so getting the structure of a team meeting, particularly one that's consistent over time, getting an effective structure, it's helpful to put in a few rituals. Like everybody's got 30 seconds to check in about their day, no matter what it is. What's happened so far? What do you feel good about? What do you feel crappy about? Boom, on to the next person. Doing that allows myself to show up authentically, number one, which is hard enough to do.
Yeah.
But I can get myself out of the way, right? I had a big fight with my daughter last night that is still staying with me. Yeah. I don't have to go into the detail, but just owning that, putting it in the center allows me to become more fully present, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So things like that. Oh, there's one that's fun that I developed over the pandemic because of these online meetings, right? So you take an object that has some meaning for you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to choose a shell. I place it in my right hand at the beginning of the meeting. I ask everybody to close their eyes, and they're doing the same thing with another object. Take a deep breath, open your eyes, transfer that to your left hand, put it down, and now you have opened the gate to this experience, and you can enter the gate fully present. Okay. At the end of the meeting, you reverse it. Now I've opened the gate to the rest of my day.
Okay.
And it gives me a sense of mindfulness that, I don't know about you, but I really am a sucky meditator. I just am.
Yeah.
I just fail at it. But I have found that if I can stitch in these opportunities for mindfulness, these little bitty rituals, particularly in my engagements online, people show up a little more fully.
Hmm.
And I know that I show up a little more fully too.
Yeah. Now, how do the men in the room take this exercise? Are they open to it, or they're like, oh my
No,
gosh?
it's really interesting. I've had plenty of eye rollers of both genders.
Okay. So it's genderless. Yeah.
But yeah, the men in the room are like, But after a while, if I'm consistent about it,
Yeah.
if number one, it doesn't take any time at all.
Right.
Number two, they do start to notice after a while that they're showing up a little differently,
Okay.
and that the content of the meeting often gets off the surface pretty quickly. And we make better, more efficient use of the time.
Yeah. Which
and
is
it
important.
doesn't matter to the eye rollers,
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're consistent and if you know it works, it takes other people time to experience it and say,
That's right.
It's not so bad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
If you are enjoying the F50 Woman podcast, don't forget to share your positive comments and ratings and share us on all your favorite social media channels. F50 Woman is a movement created for women, spread by women. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show and your host, Julia Jack.
So did you have anyone help you along the way, along your journey? Is there anyone you can think of that was sort of a deal maker for you, where you thought, gosh, thank you for coming into my life?
Yeah. I would say that I have benefited from really great teachers, music teachers, English teachers, my geometry teacher.
Yeah.
Which was the one math that I could understand because I could see it.
Yeah. Yes.
And another fabulous being, David LaGraff, who was the founder and the artistic director of our playback company. Playback being an improvisational theater form that uses true stories from the audience. I learned so much from David, just about being a mindful human being on the planet.
Okay.
David introduced me to mind walking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is you take a notebook with you, or I suppose, we could use our phone or whatever.
I know our cell phones now, yeah.
Cell phone. But you give yourself a span of time. You start in one place in your neighborhood or your city or your town or a new place. And every 10 minutes you stop, you find a place to sit, like park bench, coffee shop, whatever. And you just write down what comes to you.
Okay.
You do it for like 30 minutes and then see what impact that might have on your day, the rest of your day.
Okay.
He was kind of like the Zen Buddha of improv.
Okay.
I was so grateful for him being in my life.
Nice.
I just learned so many things.
Yeah.
Miss him. There's another guy I miss dreadfully.
Yeah. That's hard. Yeah. It's wonderful that they come into our lives and have such a big impact. But gosh, why couldn't you just be here forever?
It's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So if you met your younger self, what is the one piece of advice you would give her?
Remember, don't ever forget you are a powerful being.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the earlier girls can get that message,
Yes.
the better off the planet would be.
Yeah. I agree completely. Yeah. So what is next for you?
Well, I'm looking forward to this work with Kaiser Permanente.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to getting my mindset coach certification.
Okay. Right.
And I am currently putting together what's called a mindfulness mindset pod.
Okay.
Which is, I've got 5 free seats in a 6-month training for positive intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of the work is applied mindfulness, I would think. I would
Okay.
say. And also the framework that Shirzad Shamim is his name. He is Iranian born, and he's been in the country and living in San Francisco since he was 3. And he still has a beautiful accent. He has put together this framework about dissecting our internal critics.
Okay.
So we have an internal judge.
Yes.
And then we have 9 different saboteurs,
Okay.
which work to essentially sabotage our progress as adults. And they were the saboteurs and the judge were created in our psyches, in our childhood, as a way to cope with the stresses and the issues and the challenges that we found ourselves in.
Yeah.
Often through no fault of our own.
Yeah.
So dissecting these saboteurs has been really interesting. There's an assessment that you can take on positiveintelligence.com to find out what your top 3 saboteurs are.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, mine happens to be restless, which is I'll come to some juncture in whatever project I'm building that is, it's challenging, it's hard work, it doesn't look like it's going to work out, and pop, I'll go over to this other shiny object.
Yes.
And our whole culture is like this now.
Yes, it is.
Media just fuels this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my top ones. Avoiding conflict. That is big with females in my family. Often it's learned behavior. And a couple of, hyperachiever.
Okay.
Yeah. And nothing is ever good enough. I'm not ever accomplishing enough. And I can never let myself just be.
Right.
However, I will say that one thing that I've started to do over the last couple of years is designate 2 or 3 nights as a solo camp experience.
Okay.
I go to a campground about half an hour away from my home.
Yeah.
I don't want to go far away because, if it rains, I'm coming home.
Okay. Camp time is over. It's raining.
Yeah, that's right. But I just got through with a wonderful experience for 3 days camping by myself, kind of to prove to myself that I still can erect a campfire. I can still put up my tent by myself. I find interesting things to cook. But I watched, I had a blue heron visitation every day.
Okay.
And I watched him preen his feathers for half an hour on this same little land spit at low tide.
Yeah.
And I felt myself just kind of slowing down, giving myself finally permission to just be and watch.
Yeah.
And then I can come back into my life a little more settled, a little more focused. Not so much, at the mercy of my saboteurs.
Yeah. That's a meditation in itself. That might even be a strategy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know that you say that you're a hyperachiever, but I feel calm from you. So whatever that is, I feel the calm and I think I'm feeling better today. No.
Great.
Yeah. So as we wind down, please tell us what book you would advise every woman to read. Do you have one that you would advise?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, there's a couple of them, actually.
Okay.
But the one there are 2 that popped to mind immediately. One is called Joyful by Ingrid Fettel Lee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about what brings us joy. Simple things like colors and design and collections. She's got a segment in there that I actually have relayed in my listening book about the mayor of this city in Albania who was an artist. and the kids weren't going to school. Everyone looked depressed. No one was in the city squares. Gangsters were running amok. It was corrupt. It was dirty. It was gray. It was awful. But he was an artist. He didn't know what else to do. So he started painting buildings in the center of town.
Okay.
Weird, vibrant colors.
Yeah.
Without explanation of any kind.
Right.
Just to see what would happen.
Okay.
And because it was the only thing he knew to do. Well, that one change, suddenly people started gathering in the city squares again.
Yeah.
Suddenly people started picking up the trash. Local government started to pay more attention to making sure that people followed the laws. And that created safe space for old people and kids.
Yeah.
They started to take more pride, more, I guess you'd call it civic pride in their city.
Yeah.
And kids started going back to school. All that changed was the color of the buildings.
Yes.
But this guy won a national award as best mayor in the world.
Wow.
This one change, because it fomented all those other changes. It was kind of like the broken window theory.
Yes.
In New York, right?
Yeah.
So that story struck me very deeply. Just the power of one consistent, simple thing applied over time.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So Joyful by Inger Fetterly, and then Nature Fix.
Okay.
By Florence Williams. She is a young researcher. I don't know how young she is. She's probably in her 40s now.
Okay.
But she wanted to find out exactly why and put it into data, the healthful impact that natural experiences have on us.
Okay.
This is where, the term forest bathing came into vogue.
Yeah.
Largely around the same time that she was producing her work. She was going all over the globe. Places like, Korea, for one thing, has done a lot of work. Sending people into forests with helmets, that will gauge their blood pressure,
their senses and what's happening in their body.
That's right, exactly. It's fascinating stuff. All right, and there's one more. Oh, I just got done with Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass.
Braiding?
Braiding.
Okay.
Braiding. Sweetgrass.
Okay. What's that one about?
She's another scientist, researcher who is part of a Native American community. And this book is all about braiding together the Western scientific viewpoint with the spiritual depth that Native American cultures have with our planet and our natural world.
Oh, I'm going to read that one.
Oh, it's really powerful. Really powerful.
Yeah.
That was the book that kept me company during my 3 days camping.
Okay. Yes. What a perfect book for that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just one last lighthearted question. What is one thing that you can't miss doing every day?
Yeah. One thing I cannot miss doing every day. I got started on something called the Best Self Companies Self Journals.
Okay.
They are ways of keeping focused on 3 goals over a 13-week span of time.
Cool.
So, yeah, and you break them down into weekly progress reports, and then you break them down into daily progress reports.
Okay.
And each day you start the day by naming 3 things you're grateful for.
Okay.
And
perfect.
I have discovered since my daughter left for college, and that we now have a nightly ritual where we will share 3 things. I'll text her 3 things I'm grateful for, and she'll text me back 3 things she's grateful for.
Wonderful.
And this is great because it gets her out of her kind of drama queen. Everything is happening to me. I'm such a victim mindset.
So important for this
Right.
generation. Yeah.
And it gives me a little more insight into what's actually happening in her life that she may or may not talk about with me.
Right. Yeah. That's beautiful. Maybe I'll start doing that with my daughter too. Can I steal it?
Absolutely. Yes.
It's so important. Even like you said, not only to know what's going on in their lives, but help them to set their mindset away from, whatever that is.
Stress.
Self-focused stress and anxiety. And yeah.
Self-absorption.
Self-absorption. Yeah. You said it. Yeah. Yeah. I do it too. Sometimes
We
I'm
all
like,
do.
yeah, it's been all about you all week. What's going on? Yeah.
That's right.
So after this podcast, how can people get in touch with you? Give us your website or your email. How can we reach you?
Yeah, my website is Kym, Kym Dakin, Dakin. It's all lowercase, no spaces, KymDakin.com.
Mm-hmm.
And my email is kdakin56@gmail.
Nice. Okay. Please get in touch with Kym. There's so many things that you can help us all with. And especially as we're women 50 and over, we don't want to get, what did you call it earlier on? You don't want to lose your sense of curiosity and just fade into the sunset.
That's right.
So Forbes came up with a 50 over 50 list of women 50 and over who are doing, big things. So it just reminds you that all of that work we've done up to this point and whatever you're doing is just sort of kicking off.
Exactly. I'm coming to believe that women hit their prime after their kids are grown.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
yes.
Now we can really focus, pay attention, and kick some butt.
Yes, I agree. So let's go kick some butt. Thank you so much for being here. This was a gift and you are amazing. And thank you for your tips and sharing your life.
So much fun, Julia. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're doing awesome work in the world.
You've been listening to the F50 Woman Podcast. Join the F50 Woman movement and this diverse group of voices to help change the world one woman at a time. Why should you join at your age? Because we're not done yet.